Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's July 12th, 2022. We're in the New Testament, and we are in the book of Matthew. We're going to read chapter 21, verse 12 to verse 27. All right. So we are in the Passion Week, the last week of Jesus' earthly ministry before he's crucified and he's resurrected. And Matthew's going to give us about three little stories here. These stories, you can find them in the other Gospels. Slightly different. We talked about that a little bit, that hey, sometimes it might look different, but you say, you know what, is it just a different perspective on this? And that usually clears that up. In this case, it's a little bit harder than that, because it's an issue of timing, because Matthew's got them laced in a certain order, and then Mark switches it around a little bit, and Luke's got it in a slightly different order, and John even has one of these issues, the cleansing of the temple, way at the beginning of his gospel. So does that mean there were two, or what does that mean? Well, if you think about how biography works for us in our modern times, you start with the birth and you work through chronologically everything all the way to someone's death, and that's how we usually think of a biography. First century, yeah, that was part of a biography, but there was also, if I wanted to maybe stress a character trait or a theme about something, then I would jump around a little bit. So for example, hey, I want to say that you're a strong person, so I would maybe give an example from when you were a kid of how you were strong, and then I'm going to give an example when you were a young adult that you were even stronger in something, and then as an adult, boy, you were really strong, and so I kind of developed that theme of your strength. Now I want to talk about your courage. Okay, I'm going to go back and talk about when you were courageous as a little kid, when you're courageous. So I'm working through the trait. I'm jumping back and forth in the timeline because I want to concentrate on that trait through your life, not necessarily build your life all the way through. So in this case, Matthew is doing that with these three stories that he's going to give us. He wants to build that theme that he's been working of that confrontation between Jesus and the spiritual leaders of his day. He finally gets to the temple, and he sees that they've got people they pushed the Jews and the Gentiles and the unclean people that are sick and hurt. They pushed them out of the temple so that they could bring in money changers who could rip people off and kick back to the priests. So he cleanses the temple from the inside. Then as he's outside the temple looking back at it, we get the fig tree analogy. That, you know what, there's leaves, there's bustle, there's hustle. It looks like you're doing something, but ain't no fruit. So what good are you? I'm going to destroy you. And we even get to the point that he's on the road, and he uses that if you had a faith as a seed, you could say to that mountain, move. Only he says this mountain. So he's standing on the road looking at the temple saying, this mountain is going to move. And I got faith. And sure enough, it's coming down. Then he ends with a confrontation with the Pharisees one more time, where they want to say, hey, what gives you the right to do this? What gives you the right to say the things you're saying about us? What gives you the right to pronounce judgment on us? And he turns it back on him and says, hey, you know what? What right did John the Baptist have? Because they know that right, and they know it's the same one Jesus had. And when they say, ooh, well, we can't really answer that, and he says, well, I'm not going to tell you either, because you know the answer. You don't want to tell yourself. I'm not going to tell you. So let's go ahead and we're going to read Matthew chapter 21, verse 12 to 27. And Jesus entered the temple and drove out all who sold and bought in the temple. And he overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who had sold pigeons. He said to them, it is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you make it a den of robbers. And then the blind and the lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them. But when the chief priests and the scribes saw the wonderful things that he did, and the children crying out in the temple, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were indignant. And they said unto him, do you hear what they are saying? And Jesus said to them, yes. Have you never read, out of the mouths of infants and nursing babies you have prepared praise? And leaving them, he went out of the city to Bethany and lodged there. In the morning, as he was returning to the city, he became hungry, and seeing a fig tree by the wayside, he went to it and found nothing on it, but only leaves. He said to it, may no fruit ever come from you again. And the fig tree withered at once. When the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, how did the fig tree wither at once? And Jesus answered them, truly I say to you, if you have faith and do not doubt, you will not only do what has been done to the fig tree, but even if you say to this mountain, be taken up and thrown in the sea, it will happen. And whatever you ask in prayer, you will receive if you have faith. And when he entered the temple, the chief priests and the elders of the people came up to him as he was teaching and said, "By what authority are you doing these things, and who gave you this authority?" Jesus answered them, "I also will ask you one question, and if you tell me the answer, then I also will tell you by what authority I do these things. The baptism of John, from where did it come? From heaven or from man?" And they discussed it among themselves, saying, "If we say from heaven, he will say to us, 'Why then did you not believe him?' But if we say from man, we are afraid of the crowd, and they will hold that John was a prophet." So they answered Jesus, "We do not know." And he said to them, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things." May God bless the reading of his word, and may God bless you. Bye.